The snow took her voice before it took her knees. She stepped from the dark in a scatter of sparks, stumbled to the roundup fire with hands cupped like a beggar's bowl, and folded without a sound. Men rose as one. Cal Hollis, Foreman, kept his hat on and his head clear. "Easy," he said, kneeling. "She's frozen through." Her scarf was iced to her mouth, her fingers stiff as kindling. Cal slid his hands under her shoulders and set her close to the flames. The heat smelled of coffee. She was light in the way an empty canteen warns a man. "Blankets," he said. "Cookie, bring stew. Curly, hold her hands gently, no rubbing. We'll warm her slow." Cal swapped her scarf for a dry kerchief. Her eyes opened on the third breath he counted, gray and trying to focus. "You're all right," he told her. "You hit the right fire." Her lips moved. The first sound was a scrape like winter had set a rusty door in her throat. "Water," she managed. "Coffee's hotter and closer," Cookie said with a tin cup. "Mind the edge." She sipped, winced, and sipped again. Color crept back. Cal watched like a man checks a cinch. She tried. "I'm a singer." She tried to flex her fingers and couldn't. "Snow'll do that to a voice and a fiddle both," Cal said. "Lucky for us, we don't need either to finish this drive. We do need two hands that can hold a ladle." He tipped his head toward the cook tent. "You fit to sit near a stove?" Her eyes flicked to stew, to canvas, to the men not listening on purpose. Pride measured itself against hunger. "Name's Cal Hollis," he said, sparing her the hard question. "I keep these boys honest enough to brand straight." "What should I call you?" "Lark," she said. "Lark Doyle." "All right, Miss Doyle." He folded the blanket closer. "Out here, a man's brand is the mercy he burns on the world. I'll make you a square offer so your pride doesn't have to fight me. You eat, warm up, and help Cookie at daybreak with dishes and dough. We're short an extra pair at the wagon. Do that and you've bought your bunk and your breakfast." By firelight, she studied him like a hard trail. No pity to snag on, only the plain rails of a deal. "Fair," she said at last. Cookie snorted approval. "Fair is coffee and stew before it turns to leather. Come on, don't lean on those fingers yet. Put this around your neck." He looped a clean towel there. "You'll thaw quicker mad than meek." The men went back to talk because Cal's tone had settled it. Lark ate slow, small bites, blanket tight. "What were you doing out yonder?" Curly asked finally. "Walking," Lark said. "I ran out of money before I ran out of road. I followed dust because dust means work." Cal nodded once. "You caught up," he said. "And you kept your feet long enough to make your own bargain. That counts in camp." She looked at her hands. If there were rings, winter had taken them. Her fingers reddened now, pain returning. "I can wash," she said. "Peel. I bake better than I sing when the weather's mean." Cookie made a pleased sound. "We'll test that claim in the morning." Cal stood. "Curly, second watch with Pinto. Slim, walk her to the wagon. Mind the ice. Miss Doyle," he tipped his hat. "You rest till first light." She rose carefully, blanket dragging like a train she hadn't planned. At the edge of the fire's reach, she paused. "Mr. Hollis." "Cal will do." "Thank you," she said, and her voice found one clean note. He answered with a nod. "Star's cold. You think she's got the grit?" Pinto asked. "She got here," Cal said. "Grit's half getting there and half staying." He stacked the cards. "And the brand that takes a stray takes the talk that comes with it." No one argued. They had been cold before and thankful for square offers. Lark's shadow crossed the cook tent canvas once, then again slower, as if measuring the stove by its smell and the bunk by its narrowness. Wind eased toward midnight. Horses dozed. Cal listened to the small sounds of a camp holding against the dark. A spoon settling, a kettle ticking, a woman's breath evening out beyond cloth. He let the thought come then, kept back till work was done. A campfire's duty is not only to warm those who built it, but to throw enough heat for the lost to find their way. Out here, that passed for law. In the morning, deals would stand or fail. Tonight the fire had done its job, and so had he. Dawn hit camp like a hammer on cold iron. Cookie's pot sang. Horses blew steam. Lark woke to a stripe of pale light under the wagon canvas and the stiff ache of thawed fingers choosing whether to hurt or be useless. She chose hurt. She sat up, tightened the towel at her neck, and slid her feet to the ground. "Hold there, songbird," Cookie said from the stove, banging lids. "You're in my kitchen. My rules." "I asked to earn breakfast," Lark said, voice rough. "Tell me where to stand." He eyed her like he weighed flour. He pointed to a crate. Perch till the stove quits being contrary. Then you can help temper me. Cal came out of the gray hat brim wet with dew, boots quiet. He nodded to Lark. Morning. Deal still stands if you're game. I'm game, she said. She flexed her hands and winced. I can peel and wash. If you trust me with dough, I'll do better. We'll see, Cookie said, but his mustache twitched. Work started simply. Lark washed the tin in warm water and set plates to dry with space between. She pulled potatoes from the sack and set a rhythm with the knife. Slow, even. She said nothing. Work is the language a hungry camp understands. Men drifted through on the current of habit. Curly fetched firewood. Slim cleaned a Dutch oven he'd scorched. Pinto tried to look useful and failed cheerfully. Each glanced at Lark, then let it go. Cal didn't look. He noticed, which is a different thing. Steaks are plain, Cal said, rolling a smoke he wouldn't light till horses were fed. You don't owe us your story. You owe fair work for fair shelter. If any man bothers you, he deals with me first, and the owner after. The owner? Lark asked. Mr. Brand, Cookie said dryly. He bought letters for his name and likes to use 'em. Cal kept on. He rides out in 2 days. He likes things barber neat. That means this wagon shines, supper's on the dot, and nobody's dead. Can you fit inside that? Lark nodded. I've played tougher rooms. Cookie shoved a basin over. Test of dough hand. Make a biscuit without making trouble. She washed and dried, measured by feel, coaxed water into the well till the mass came together with more humility than fight. She didn't need long. She folded. She let it rest under a towel. You done this before, Cookie said. Boarding house, Lark said. When the piano broke, I had to pay the repairman. His loss, Cookie muttered. Cal walked the remuda, horses dark against the whitening east. Lark listened to Camp's breathing, spoons, leather, men who knew the order of mornings. She set coffee cups where a half-asleep hand would expect them. She put the salt where Cookie reached without looking. When the dough was ready, she pinched rounds, thumbprinted each, and brushed tops with coffee to fake a crust. Cookie grunted at the trick and didn't stop her. Leftovers? She asked, nodding toward last night's stew gone stiff at the edges. Plenty, Cookie said. Boys won't eat it twice. They will if it travels, Lark said. Give me an hour later and I'll show you. You planning to teach an old pan new songs? Cookie said, but his eyes said maybe. Cal came back with frost on his cuffs. The biscuits rose respectfully, not proudly. The camp ate without complaint, which is high praise. Lark ate last and only what was needed. After, Cal walked her along the picket line. You don't need to, he said, but it pays to know where trouble starts. He showed the trick knot that a nervous gelding would work loose. He pointed to a bay with a watchful eye. That one's Church. He doesn't forgive noise. I won't give him any, Lark said. Hands in sight, she moved smoothly. Church's ears tipped forward in polite suspicion. Instead of back in warning, Cal. Watch the way she breathed near the animals, as if they were a song she remembered but wouldn't sing. He filed that by the coffee in his head. Reach for it when needed. Back at the wagon, Cookie stacked pans in a pattern that meant he'd accepted her. At sundown, you can't tinker with your travels idea, he said. Till then, keep my kingdom tidy and your pride warm. Fair, Lark said. Her fingers ached less when busy. The ache meant blood was back, and blood meant there was still a road. The sun stood up proper. Somewhere a raven spoke its one word for hunger and flew on. Wind carried wood smoke flat across sage and frost-bent grass tufts. In camp, the day began in earnest, and Lark belonged to it the way a note belongs to a song once the key is set. She made the leftovers march. By mid-morning, the camp was a wheel. Men at spokes, horses in a slow circle, smoke rising straight. Lark tied her towel like an apron and took stock as a banker counts coins, cold stew, a heel of bacon, sprouting onions, biscuits hard as shingles, a jar of lard, a sack of cornmeal. Permission to tamper, she told Cookie. Tamper quick, he said. Dinner waits for nobody and supper hates surprises. She set the pot where the heat is honest, minced meat, melted the stew's jelly back, browned the onion till it minded, folded in biscuit crumbs pounded with her knife, thickened with cornmeal sifted like dust. When it held without pleading, she spread it thin to cool. You building a wall or a lunch? Cookie asked. Both, Lark said. Walls travel if you build them right. She rolled the dough thin as a letter, cut circles, spooned the cooled stew, folded and crimped. A vent with a matchstick, a brush of coffee, and the half-moons went shoulder to shoulder in the Dutch oven, Curly nosed in. What are those? Pies for men who won't sit? Pockets, Lark said. They keep a hand free for rains. While the pockets baked, she lined a pan with cloth, pressed a second batch into palm rounds, and dipped each in hot lard to seal the outside. Cookie frowned. Greasing food to keep it from going bad? To keep it from going lonely, Lark said. Parked in shade, they'll ride 3 days. Hack in half and you've got 2 meals that don't argue. He poked a puck, then let it be. Cal came by, palm to the oven lid like reading a sign, taking in the sealed rounds and the cloth. That'll spare tempers when we're long from a fire. It'll spare yours, Lark answered. By noon, the first pockets browned enough to promise. Cookie cracked the lid, blinked, and said a word men save for reverence. They ate standing because the day didn't pause. Men bit, chewed, and nodded. Don't get used to compliments, Cookie told her. They spoil faster than cream. I collect proof, Lark said, pointing at the empty pan. Wind brought a rattle from the remounts. Church lifted his head. 2 grays down the line answered wrong. Ropes whispered. A hoof rang. Lark set her knife down and went to the horses with empty hands. She didn't touch. She stood where a skittish animal can see both eyes. She let a low note out, just the hum a woman uses to keep a pot from boiling over. The shiver ran the line and dripped away. Church went back to being a judge instead of a prosecutor. Cal watched from the corner of his eye because direct praise spooks good habits. He marked the tune and the quiet it left like tucking a dry match in a wet month. The afternoon wore the camp thin. Lark kept the wagon square, water hot, knives in place, trash buried. She set a pan to catch drips from a crack in the oak bucket and tied the bale with a loop that wouldn't give at the worst moment. She wasn't fixing for applause, only the small treasons that grow big when a day turns rough. Supper came on with a light leaning. She ladled beans that didn't brag, boiled coffee, and set a platter of pockets for men not done riding. Cookie tasted, scowled on principle, then admitted, "All right, you make an honest supper." The crew ate with easy jokes. Curly slid her wool gloves with a fingertip, patched. "Trade," he said. "You keep making those pocket saints, I'll keep my hands too." "I don't take pay I haven't earned," Lark said. "You already did," Curly said. "Call it an installment." She took the gloves because refusing thanks is another kind of pride. Cal met her eye and tipped his hat. When the plates were clean, Cookie nodded at the sealed rounds cooling under a cloth. "You think those will hold?" "Hunger's a thief and grease is a lock," Lark said. "Tomorrow we'll know which is better." "Make 2 dozen more before you sleep," Cookie decided. "If they travel like you say, we'll cut the noon fire and buy miles." "Do it," Cal said. Night nosed close. Lark's hands smarted, but smart hands are alive. She stood a moment under salt grain stars. The camp had a sound she recognized now. The rest of a body earns. Work had paid for warmth. Warmth had bought a place. Out here, the ledger is written in what you do when nobody wants to clap. She banked coals, tied canvas, and left 1 pocket under a tin lid. Against the chance a rider came late from the dark. Against the chance Mercy wanted a place to land. She slept lightly, ready for dawn. The quiet broke like a cinch strap. Wind held steady. The sky stayed fair. But a sound in the remount line went false. Lark heard it first. Rope scrape, hurried hoof, slap of panic. She set down the ladle and walked toward the horses with her towel lifted like a flag. Church had his head high. 2 grays jittered. A green kid named Tully had a drag loop careless round his wrist. The near gray jumped, the loop bit, and the boy lurched toward a post. "Hold!" Cal's voice cut through the camp square. Lark didn't run. Running adds speed to fear. She stepped into the gray's sight and let the towel blot the world smaller. The horse checked. Cal came on the next breath, knife whispering once. The rope fell free. Tully hit his knees. "Wrist," Lark said, humming low to bleed the scare from the line. "I'm fine," Tully tried. "Prove it," she said. Rope burn laid a hot band around his skin. No break, but swelling talked. "Cookie," she called. "Boil water. Curly the honey." "Keeps pride from turning to pus," Lark said when he frowned. She rinsed with cooled boiled water, lifted grit with a clean cloth, laid a thin smear of honey, and wrapped it snug with flour sack linen. "Keep it moving," she told him. "Easy often." Cal watched her hand, Sunday steady. "Who taught you?" "Women where doctors don't," she said. "And a liveryman with more scars than stories." Work resumed. "Back to your kingdom," Cookie said. "Your dough sulks when you neglect it." By noon, her sealed rounds proved their case. Men bit through the grease-tight crust and found stew inside. No fire, no plates, no waiting, just miles bought cheap. Lark counted as she passed the pan, keeping 8 back for late riders. She watched what men did with what they were given. Cal split his and handed the larger half to Tully, pretending he hadn't noticed the wince. The day thinned to wire. Wind came off the snow. Lark patched the fly and set the snow to melt. Tully threw a left-handed loop that almost held and grinned. Almost is progress here. Then the herd jammed at the creek cut. The lead pushed wrong. Cattle heaved in. The sound turned to weight. A white-faced cow stepped where the bank pretended to be and sloughed into the cold with the calf bawling on top. Rope, Cal said, moving. Pinto went high to block the side push. Curly made room with his horse. Lark took a coil and a shovel and ran the low line through willow shade. Mud sucked at her boots. She reached the lip and threw the rope to Cal. "Tree it," he snapped. She half-hitched a cottonwood, set her heels, and held while Cal and Pinto worked the loop under the cow's chest. The river took their breath. The bank tried for their footing. "Easy, girl," Lark said, voice even as a metronome. On the beat now. Cal glanced once. She was giving them a pull count without numbers. "Now," he said. They hauled. Mud let go. The cow lunged up, rolled a white eye, and found her feet. The calf jammed its head into her flank. Pinto barked a relieved laugh. Cal wiped his face and looked at Lark. She was dirty to the knees, hair stuck to her brow, eyes bright as creek water. "Good anchor," he said. "Good rope," she returned, and untied the tree without fumbling. By the time the herd remembered the trick of walking, evening had earned itself. Back in camp, Cookie gave Lark the first coffee, not because she was delicate, but because she had pulled like a hand, and nobody argued it. "For the voice that keeps critters and men from the loudest possible fool thing," he said. She drank and set to supper. The look the crew turned her way had warmed a notch. "Respect is a camp coat." "Mr. Brand rides in tomorrow," Curly said. "He'll want the wagon barber neat." "It will be," Lark said. She had scoured pans to a soldier's shine, set ladles where a blind man could find them, tied the coffee high and the meat low, and left a pocket under a tin lid for any rider late from the dark. Cal lingered near the fire. "You keep making order where trouble expects an opening," he said. "Habit," Lark answered. "Hunger and fear both hate a clean kitchen. You've bought more than breakfast, young, only for the night," she said. Stars came on cold. She slept clean easily. Horses blew and settled. The line creaked once and went quiet. Lark listened to the camp's sound and found under clink and breath a place where her hum could rest. She banked the fire, squared the canvas, and slept the kind of sleep that earns itself by daylight. The day gave her one quiet minute and dared her to waste it. She took it like a debt paid in nickels. After breakfast, pans stacked and coffee hung high, Lark stood behind the wagon and watched the sun climb the hills. Her fingers ached the good ache of use. The camp moved without her for once. Cal walked up easily, hat tipped. He shared the silence before asking, "You ever miss the stage?" "I miss roofs that don't leak," she said. "Shoes that don't argue. Claps never fed as well as bread. That a singer's creed? That's a woman's." She tugged the towel at her throat. "When a road gets long, I tell myself, what you keep alive will keep you if you're decent to it." Sounds like Brand talk. He looked at the herd done in the light. "What are you keeping alive now, Miss Doyle?" "My word," she said. "And my hands till they're useful again." Cookie clanged a lid to declare his kingdom. Morning wore smoothly. By noon, the sealed rounds proved themselves. Cal shaved an hour off the halt. "Miles are cheap," he said. Lark marked that against her ledger of belonging. They made camp early for Mr. Brand's inspection. Canvas tight, iron clean, horses fed. Lark braided her hair short as sense, shook crumbs from her skirt, and thought about nothing, which is the best way to be judged. Mr. Brand rode in with 2 men and a banker's smile. "Foreman," he said to Cal, "I hear singing in my camp." "You hear a woman who pulls her weight," Cal answered. "We were a pair of hands short. She makes the wagon run quietly." Brand measured Lark. "You're on for tonight only," he said. "I don't house strays. 1 supper, 1 bunk, then move on. Keep my men thinking about cows, not lullabies." "Understood," Lark said. Cookie spat after Brand turned away. He'd fence sunrise if he could. Evening came in a different color. Lanterns strung between wagons, talk rising with the glow. Pinto found a mouth harp. Curly clapped time. Lark stood by the coffee and held the room with not singing, the sense of someone who knows when sound helps and when it brags. Cal drifted to her side. "You have a song for horses?" I've got one for anything with a nervous heart, she said. But I don't give it away without cause. You'll know when. It came field quick. A freight moaned far off, iron on iron, a sound that crawls into herd memory and kicks. Wind funneled the note down the draw till it turned to thunder. Church threw his head. 3 young ones answered wrong. The line picked up the shiver like wire catching lightning. Cal's voice cut through. Mount, hold the outside.
Keep the V!
Men moved without spilling coffee. Curly swung up. Pinto took the far shoulder. Tully, left-handed, held the flank where he could do least harm and still be counted. Lark walked to church with bare palms and slow breath. She set herself where eyes could find her and let a tune out. Low as kettles, steady as a clock. No words, words argue. The sound threaded noise and asked the horses to remember barns, slow hands, grain in the dark. Church's ears flicked. The tremor ran down his neck and stopped. The young ones took that permission and eased toward sanity. The train wailed again, closer. Cal eased along the edge, keeping the V from turning into a spear. Hold now, he said. Hold the beat. Lark slid the tune down a step to say stay, to say stand. Cookie found himself humming. The line steadied. The freight rolled past the ridge and left a hard quiet. Brand had watched from his fine coat. He took in the settled herd, the men who hadn't spilled, the woman with her hands down and her voice like a rope tossed gently. What did you do there? He asked. Paid attention, Lark said. Same as any decent hand. Curly whooped once he knew who wouldn't die. Pinto slapped his leg. Tully grinned like his first lariat had finally come true. Cal looked at Lark and didn't say thank you with his mouth. He said it by relaxing his shoulders the width of one breath. She saw it and filed it. Brand came closer. Miss Doyle, is it? You've earned your supper. See that you don't overstay it. I go when I'm told, she said. I came because the fire was hot and the deal was square. The lantern swung easily. The camp exhaled. Lark poured coffee for any hand that shook and said nothing large. Inside, a part of her that had been winter-long unclenched. Out here, a work well done is a kind of prayer. It keeps. It holds you. Trouble showed its teeth before it bit. Mr. Brand rose clean, coat sharper than frost, and called Cal to the wagon tongue. One day more, he said. Then the woman moves on. I won't have my outfit turned schoolmarm soft. Cal's jaw didn't change. She's bought her keep. You bought sentiment, Brand said. It spends poorly. Make it right. He rode off with a hat-brim man named Sloan who blinked like a crow. Lark heard enough to read the weather. She kept working. Cookie watched Brand go. He handles men like spoons, he said. Clatters 'em till the sound pleases him. I'll keep the spoons quiet, Lark said. You keep the fire honest. Before noon, a wrong note slid under the day. The sugar sack felt heavy, fine, not coarse. Lark pinched some and tasted, then spit hard. Salt in the sugar, she said. Cookie swore a cook's prayer. Who'd waste good salt on bad spite? Someone aiming to make coffee undrinkable and biscuits cursed, Lark said. She tied the sack in a knot that a lazy man wouldn't untie and checked the flour. This barrel's honest. She moved through stores like a scout through brush. Lids checked, lard sniffed, beans washed twice. The water keg told another tale. Kerosene to the nose, just enough to shave taste into mean. She rolled it, bled a gallon, rinsed with boiling water till the ghost thinned, and set a clean pail to draw from. Curly tasted. Somebody's courting a black eye. Somebody wants a bad supper pinned on me, Lark said. Cal arrived without being called. Anything missing? Only the good will you like to keep, Lark said. We'll feed men decent. Cal's gaze went to the ridge where Brand and Sloan measured the herd. They'll try the dark sooner than planned, he said. He wants miles bought. Insight came plain. Brand didn't mind loss, only the look of command. Mercy read to him like weakness. A woman who solved problems without asking first was a hole in his fence. Can you hold a kitchen under a push? Cal asked. I can hold a church with a whisper, Lark said. We'll eat on the move. By sundown, the wind turned edge on. Brand ordered a night graze across the flats to shave a day from the calendar he worshipped. Keep them drifting, he told Cal, and keep that woman silent. No songs. My men have one idea, stay alive and keep their word, Cal said. Brand smiled like a dull knife. The crew was quiet. Lark packed pockets and sealed rounds, slung safe water and tied her towel higher against the cold. Tully flexed his bandaged wrist. I can ride at night, he said. You can ride carefully, Lark said, giving him 2 pockets to bribe courage when it tried to desert. She turned back to the wagon and stopped. The Dutch oven she'd left cool was nudged. The lid sat a finger skew. In the dust, a boot print with a half-moon cut in the heel. Sloane's boot had that notch. "Cookie," she said low. "We've got a visitor who doesn't sign his name." Cookie set his jaw. "I'll sit up a while and be unfriendly." Cal ghosted in. She told him what she'd seen. He nodded once. "Brand's man wants you blamed for a ruin that hasn't happened. If supper fails, men sour. If men sour, the herd sours. Then he says I can't keep order." "What do you want from me?" "Exactly what you were going to do," he said. "Feed them straight. Keep the horses listening. And if the dark talks louder, outshout it with sense." They moved as stars iced the sky. The herd flowed. The men dotted its banks. Church carried his head high, watching the edges. Lark kept to the wagon track, pacing the line where a pan clank can spook a year's wages. She sang in her throat nothing a coward could steal. The tune laid a path under feet. On the far flats, something tapped. Metal on metal, offbeat, wrong. Not a bell a rider hangs for luck. More the clank a malice makes when it wants company. The remounts twitched. Lark stopped, trying to name the sound. It came again from the lee of a brush pile where no wind worked. Cal's hand went up. The line slowed. Curly eased left. Pinto's horse lifted into watchfulness. Lark stepped forward, palms open, voice low as winter light. "Easy now," she told the dark. "We see you." It wasn't answered enough. The clank jumped to a new bush, then another. Drawn along a wire maybe, or swung by a man walking bent. The herd answered with lifted heads, a breath sucked sharp. The night had picked its quarrel. It would choose a side before morning, and so would every hand who rode it. The dark reached for the herd and found a loose end to pull. Cal answered with order. Lark answered with breath. Curly and Pinto widened the V. Tully held the left, and the clank hopped bush to bush. "Wire," Lark said to Cal, low. "He's dragging it." Cal's eyes cut to the brush line. "Sloane, hold steady," Cal called. "No yelling. Keep them feeling tall." Lark stepped toward Church, hands bare, voice small. Night makes noise bigger. Steady sound shrinks it. She hummed the low stove note and let it run like warm water over iron. Church took the pitch and quit arguing with the air. The ripple down the line slowed. The clank jumped closer. A shadow peeled off the brush and tugged. Wire kissed a cannon bone. A young bay flinched into another, and 3 cows lifted the idea of running. "Not tonight," Cal said, and slid down like a cat. He ghosted the brush, Curly drifting crosswise to pinch. Sloane broke for the draw, wire skimming. Lark felt the herd teeter, ready to pour. She couldn't rope. She could sing. She set the tune higher, a rail line horses could balance on. Cookie found the hum and joined low like a bell inside a church you haven't built yet. Then the freight far off threw one last moan, and the bay proved panic contagious. The near edge busted like rotten twine. "High right," Cal snapped. "Turn the leaders." "Don't chase tails." Pinto went hard, Curly took the middle, Cal the knife point where leaders dream of being kings. Hooves drummed. The ground rattled. Tully's mare slipped. The boy fell and rose wrong, bandaged hand slowly. A cow shouldered him. He staggered and would have gone under if a hand hadn't gripped his collar. Lark had already moved. She took the hit of his weight and spun him behind the wagon wheel. "Stay," she said, and it wasn't a plea. The herd poured past. Not a full stampede, more a shove with murder in it. Cal and Pinto cut figure eights on the point. Curly found the outside and made it tight. Sloane, seeing the pour wasn't all he'd ordered, tried again. He swung the wire to snag Church. Lark stepped between without thinking, towel up. The wire caught the cloth and bit her forearm. Pain rang like a dropped pan. She held anyway, buying Church a half step to sidle and not explode. Cal hit Sloane. The two went into the brush with the wire hissing. A shape rose and fell. "The clank died, hold them!" Cal barked, already up. "Hold!" Pinto whooped once, the sound men use when courage needs to hear itself. The leaders blew, rolled their eyes, and remembered grass. The shove slowed to a push, the push to an argument. Then men walking horses and cussing low. Lark unwound the towel from the wire and tasted iron that wasn't the pan's. She pressed her sleeve tight and kept the hum going. Quiet bought at a price spends best when you keep paying. Sloane came out with Cal's rope on him and a mouthful of bad choices. Curly took the tail and made it a proper tie. "Your boss wanted a wreck," Cal said, flat as a ledger. Sloane spat dirt. "Boss wants proof you can't keep order." Orders what you fought all night, Cal said. Brand rode in late, coat fenced against the wind, face set to approve nothing he hadn't ordered. He took in the rope, the blood at Lark's sleeve, the herd stepping down into sense. What's this? He said, already certain. Your man tried to run 'em, Curly said. Wire and all. Brand looked to Sloan. Sloan looked at his boots. I said drift, Brand answered. I didn't say drag men into it. You said enough, Cal told him. Your orders cut both ways. Brand's eyes slid to Lark. You, he said. You're a fire in dry grass. I told you to be silent. I saved your cattle, Lark said, even. And your boy. She tipped her chin toward Tully. Brand's mouth thinned. Pack at dawn, he told her. Be gone before the sun hits the wagon wheel. Dawn's too late, Sloan muttered, and Cal's fist taught him a new lesson. Cookie stepped between temper and ruin. We've got bleeding and binding before speeches, he said. Miss Doyle, sit. I stand, Lark said. But she didn't argue when Cal tore linen and wrapped her arm with hands as careful as counting wages. You held a wire, he said. Church didn't need it worse, she answered. In the dark, he said. There are folks who borrow fear and folks who loan calm. She smiled without light in it. Either way, interest bites. They rode the herd till it remembered sleep. The night closed around the camp again, smaller, chastened, and full of choices due at daylight. Dawn came knife-bright and smelled of smoke. Lark had her bundle small and a note under Cookie's coffee tin. Thank you for square dealing. She stepped from the wagon tongue. The air tasted of a struck match. Smoke, she said. Cal watched the flats. A line crawled through the grass. Wind's backing, he said. That thread wants to be a wall. Curly pointed upwind. Somebody lit it. Sloan showed a heartbeat, then turned away. Brand trotted from camp. Hold the herd. No fires, he said. We'll push through. We'll drive into its teeth, Cal answered. Fire eats faster than cattle learn. Lark marked the creek cut, the bare ribbon of gravel and the rock run above it. Backburn, she said. Cut a black strip. Starve it. Brand's mouth thinned. You will not start a fire in my camp. You already have one, Lark said. She looked to Cal. Line from creek to stone. Wet sacks, shovels. Keep it low. Cal didn't look at Brand. Curly, with me. Pinto, drag hands who can think. Tully, water chain. Cookie, wet canvas. Quiet the remounts, he turned to Lark. You light it. I'll hold the flank. She lifted the kerosene can that flavored the water, dent plain to see. Let this pay back what it tried to steal. Brand's eyes flicked to Sloan. Sloan's boot turned. The half-moon notch telling on him. Lark dribbled a thin smear, struck a match, and walked the flame slowly. It bit, crawled, then ran. She stayed within reach with a wet sack, beating tongues down, breathing steady. The crew worked as if they'd practiced. Curly threw dirt where the black line thinned. Pinto kept riders clear. Tully ran water. Cal rode the edge, reading lick and wind like cattle eyes. Sloan angled for the remount rail. Church lifted his head, warning. Lark cut across new black and met Sloan at the rope. Going somewhere? She asked. Poor time for talk, he said, reaching. She swung the wet sack into his face. He rocked, blinded by creek water. Cal arrived, plucked Sloan from the saddle and made a knot that doesn't argue. Flame on the far side flared, hit the char, and coughed out. Smoke rose in a tired sheet. Ash fell thin. The herd started breathing like cattle again. Brand scowled. You fired my flats, he said to Cal. We saved your herd, Cal said. And your spark maker showed his heel. Sloan tried a sneer. You can't prove. Lark held up the dented can and pointed to the half-moon print by the rail. Proof keeps its own books. Brand looked at his outfit and found it looking back. Untie him, he told Cal. I'll deal with it. No, Curly said, the word hitting like a stake. Pinto stepped beside him. Cookie lifted a wet sack. Tully laid his hand on the rope and his good hand over his heart. Cal waited a breath that measured leadership. Hands, he said, you want this camp run square, vote it. We stand with Cal, Pinto said. And with the woman who kept us a herd. I'll eat what she cooks and ride where he points, Curly added. Cookie nodded. My kitchen agrees. Tully said, she saved me. That counts twice. Heat left Lark's knees and returned as steadiness. Cal faced Brand. That's your answer, he said. Sloan rides to the sheriff. Miss Doyle stays so long as this outfit works honestly. If you won't say it, the men have signed with their feet. Brand measured choices. The poor coin of pride against the hard cash of an outfit ready to walk. You'll ruin me, he said. You'll ruin yourself, Cal returned. We'll set the cattle right and the law right. After that, see what your name is worth. Brand's gaze slid to Lark, looking for a softer ledger. She gave him none. A brand is what it burns. He looked at the smoke line, at Sloane tied neat, at the herd still his only because other people chose to keep it so. Fine, he said. Do as you like. No, Cal said. We'll do as we said. They tied Sloane to a wheel where he could watch decency at work. Lark soaked sacks for hot spots and checked the remounts, palm on Church's neck. He blew once and forgave the morning. Cal came with ash on his sleeve. He didn't touch her wire-bit arm, but his voice reached it. You lit the line, he said. You gave it room to do right, she answered. He took off his hat, stood bareheaded in the used-up light, and said a thing a man can't borrow. As long as I wear this iron, you have a place in this camp. That's my word. She believed him like you believe a road you've walked both ways and it still leads home. When the fire lay down, the debt stood up. Ash rhymed the flats. Cattle chewed like they meant it. Men found their aches. Lark rinsed her bandage and tied it fresh with flour sack cloth. The sting said she was still worth the trouble of living. Cal moved through camp with a ledger in his head. Hot spots? Sleeping, Lark said. I'll wake them if they dream. Tully flexed his wrist. She warmed honey and laid a thin shine under a clean cloth. Heal before you prove you're fine. I'll try, he said, which is a cowhand's oath. Cookie coughed smoke till she set a pan of kettle steam and pine needles under his nose. He breathed. The bark quit. Sloane watched from the wheel where Rope kept his choices small. Brand stood apart as if authority lived in pockets, staring at the black strip like it had spoken out of turn. Cal faced him. We ride to the county seat by noon. You say what you ordered. He answers what he did. I don't ride for spectacles, Brand said. You ride for accountability, Cal answered. Or you'll ride alone. Men nearby found small chores that kept them within hearing. Brand saw no soft place to land. Fine, we go, sign, return. The drive loses a day. Cheaper than losing a name, Cal said. They set a light wagon. Pinto took lines. Curly sat with a shotgun. Sloane climbed in because the rope said so. Lark packed pockets and a jug of clean water. She tucked a towel by the seat and met Cal's eye. Bring the wagon back with everyone breathing. That's the plan. His hand paused a breath shy of her bandage. You square without me? I've kept worse kitchens with less help, she said. But I'd rather you here. He smiled the quiet smile. Back before sunset, the wagon rolled toward town. Dust unspooled behind like a thread you can follow home. Camp shrank to honest chores. Lark washed pans, set beans to soak, mended a rip in the fly, and gave Church a palm and a low note that said the day would keep its promises. By noon, she had the remounts fed and a stew for giving the morning. Mid-afternoon, hoofbeats thudded. The wagon came back with the sun at its shoulder. Curly grinned. Pinto's hat had a new dent. Sloane was gone from the seat. Cal stepped down and told it to clean. The sheriff took Sloane and wrote the charge. Judge rides circuit next week. Brand signed the statement and swallowed it. He'll ride along and see it through. The law said his name thick. Brand rode behind, dirty as any man. He touched his hat to Lark. I was wrong about you. I was right about the herd, she said. Brand nodded once. The crew set to. Work is how men agree. Cal waited until the noise settled. Miss Doyle, he said, formal as Sunday. I gave you my word for the camp. I want to add mine for myself. Say it, she told him. I mean to court you honestly, he said. I aim to make a home where your songs are welcome and your hands aren't empty unless they choose to be. If the day comes you'd take my name, I'll wear that luck like a good hat. Silence took a respectful step back. Cookie pretended the kettle needed him. Curly remembered a cinch. Pinto looked hard at the horizon. Lark looked at the man, not the hat or job. He had chosen mercy when no one was clapping. He had listened when she sang to horses. He had kept charge without bragging. I won't be kept, she said softly. I'll be partnered. That's the only way I know, he said. We carry the load between us and we don't lie about the weight. She let a breath go. She didn't know she'd corralled. Then yes, she said. We can try for that. He took off his hat like a blessing. After the judge sees Sloane, we'll speak to the preacher. After supper, she said. Romance eats better with beans in it, he laughed once. His eyes said the rest, steady, willing, patient as fence posts after wind. All day long, evening slid in gently. The herd mumbled contentment. The black line cooled. Men ate and talked low. The sound of an outfit that had seen itself and liked most of what it saw. Lark hummed by the remounts. Church leaned into the sound and closed his eyes. Cal stood by the fire and watched her like a man who'd found his compass after years of guessing north. The camp held him, and so did she. A life, he thought, is mostly chores done right and a hand you can trust reaching for the same pan. The rest is weather. The anvil spoke before the preacher did. By the time the circuit court set Sloan on a path with iron and paper, the outfit had washed smoke from its hair and counted calves twice. Cal came back with the judge's nod and the preacher riding behind like a kindly shadow. Lark set coffee, squared the wagon, and felt the day lean her way for once. Short or long? Cookie asked, pinching his sleeves. Short and honest, Cal said. He looked at Lark like a man checks a horizon he means to live under. We've said most of it while doing work. The crew slicked their hair with water. Brand stood near, hat in hand, not asked, but he'd learned to show up when decency made a list. Got the iron hot? Curly asked. Hot enough to mark memory, Pinto said, tending a brake drum forge scrounged from the siding. Lark watched the plume steady. The wind did not argue. Church dozed. Tully's bandage looked less like a flag and more like a promise. The preacher cleared his throat. You two come stand where the ground is level. His smile had trail miles in it. Marriage is mostly chores and mercy. You've practiced both. Cal set his hat crown down. Lark Doyle, he said plain. I stake my brand to yours. I'll carry what's heavy when you're tired and hush when your song is better than my talk. I'll keep a roof honest and a table full. Lark counted a breath like starting a tune. Cal Hollis, she answered. I'll guard your name like I guard a fire in the wind. I'll bake and mend and speak truth even when it's dull. I'll sing for horses and men and I won't run from weather. She glanced at the forge. I'll make do until do becomes home. The preacher's book stayed shut. He joined their hands, blessed them the way a man hears with his hat off and his heart on, and nodded to Cookie. Cookie lifted a small box from the Dutch oven's cool mouth. A ring wants a story, he said. We hammered one. Inside lay a simple band melted from a broken spur rowel, poured in a tin mold filed true, polished with flour. On the inside curve, Curly had scratched a tiny bar over H. Cal's eyes softened. Lark held out the hand that knew wire and work. He slid the band home. It fit like a tool waiting for its job. Now the brand, Pinto said. He and Curly brought a clean plank, plain smooth. The small iron in the coals glowed cherry. Cal lifted it with tongs and pressed the bar over H square. Smoke curled. The mark darkened even and proud. Every home needs a sign, Cal said. We'll hang it over the door when we build one. Brand stepped up, eyes on the plank. I was wrong about stray fires, he said carefully. You burned in what I'd have lost. He looked at Lark. The outfit's better with you in it. We all are when we choose the square thing, Lark said, pouring him coffee. The crew whooped, then remembered gentleness and let it settle to smiles. Church snorted. The preacher signed a paper and said, Kiss your bride and find a hammer. They did both. Cal kissed Lark because the day asked and love had turned from rumor to work. Then they set to, staking a bigger fly, planning a winter shack where wind couldn't count their bones, measuring with boot steps and cents. Cookie banged pots like bells. Tully fetched nails. Pinto fetched stories. Curly found an extra window because light is cheap and worth double in winter. Evening folded its hands. Supper tasted like winning without swagger. The plank leaned by the fire, brand cooling, promise cured in smoke. Lark sat with her back to the wheel and sang low, not to quiet fear but to name joy so it wouldn't startle and run. Cal listened, hat pushed back. He thought about that first night. Snow in her scarf, pride on thin rations, the square deal struck by a fire that decided to be law. Out here, a brand is the mercy you burn on the world. He believed it before, now he wore it. When stars came out like nails in a good roof, the preacher shook hands and rode for the next camp that needed a witness. Brand bedded near the men instead of apart. The herd slept like it trusted somebody. Lark tucked her ringed hand into Cal's and felt the right weight of it. Home, she said. Home, he answered. Built daily. This story made history the way the plains like it, quietly, with the kind of kindness that holds against weather. If you want more clean, gritty frontier romances like this, follow and share. Your support keeps the next campfire lit.